This time it's war. Yes, I'm making an aliens joke because this sequel is called Influencers. But it does actually kind of fit the premise of the movie. A survivor of the first film is now hunting the killer. This one gets a bit wacky, but depending on your taste, that might be exactly what you wanted. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
I came on this podcast because you defended me.
This is a horror movie podcast. We get together to talk about a movie we watched. It's that simple. And today we're following up last week's episode where we talked about Influencer, because today we're doing the sequel, Influencers. So we'll start off spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get to the spoilers. And of course, if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button, helps out a bunch of you do, and you can support us over at Patreon and help keep the show coming. So I'll tell you more about that at the end. However, I should also say, well, we are starting spoiler free. It is a sequel. I think we have to assume that you do know the first movie, even in spoiler free section here, because it does follow on with the characters of the first one. It's impossible not to spoil the first one. So just, if you've not watched the first one yet, and you care about that, go check out the first part of our review for that. Go look at the movie. But, so spoiler free, but not for the first movie. So, okay, there you go. That's all the preamble out of the way. I don't know. I almost wonder how much we should even talk about the plot and the spoiler free for this, because a big part of it going into it for me was what the hell is this going to be after the last one? I didn't really know what to expect. Does she get off the island? Does she not get off the island? Is Madison back as well? Or what's going on with her? Because honestly, I'll just say it, for 20 minutes, I thought we might have been doing a prequel for a while. I thought we might have been set before the first movie until a couple of things kind of pointed out that we weren't. And I'm like, oh, okay. So
it's kind of similar to the first movie where you start off with this, first. Well, actually, this one has a kind of a quick, oh, holy shit, it kind of scene right up front, but then it goes into...
It actually kind of had that in the first one as well, actually, because I was editing the review for the first one, right? And we forgot, we didn't even mention it because it was such a quick thing, but the first shot of the original movie was a long aerial shot, coming into the island, and you see a body lying on the beach, and that's your little tease before you get your 25-minute segment of what that movie started with. Yeah. This kind of does that, but it goes a little bit further, because you get an aerial shot following a car, and we won't say what happens, but you follow the character that's in the car do something, but it's relatively quick compared to the rest of the prologue, which is, I checked when the title started this time, I checked 30 minutes. We were 30 minutes into the movie when the title started playing, and I was like, all right, they're keeping the shtick, they're keeping the format going a little bit.
Yeah, so again, not giving any plot stuff away, but similar to the last one, there's this kind of opening chunk where you're like, oh, okay, I think I know what this movie's doing, and the movie is no, not so fast.
Yeah, it's you have a bit more information this time, because obviously you have the context of the first movie, but there's still questions in the air, exactly, because like I said, I wasn't sure when it was set, this part, and I wasn't sure where it was going exactly, and then it gets to the opening title part, and it's okay, that's how we're doing that, and then we come into what the main story is going to be. So, yeah, I mean, we're just supposed to go get the basic question out of the way. Tim, what did you think of Influencers?
So, again, I'm assuming most people have watched our first review, which, if you did, you can probably, guess my feelings on this one. I didn't, come right out and say in the last one, but I did, well, actually, maybe I did, but I pretty much said that one of the reasons why I wanted, to do the first one was so that we could do this one, because I quite enjoyed it, and a big reason why I was pushing for us to do both these movies, because we're about to do our top 10 of 2025, so we're trying to fit in as much stuff as we can, but obviously there's not you can't make everything, but I mean, one of the reasons why I really wanted to do these movies was because I again we haven't recorded that best of 2025 episode, but I think that there could be a case this could be at least in the discussion. I'm not saying that it would definitely make it, but I think this is a candidate, for us to discuss. I did like the first one quite a bit. I think I love this one. It's like it has all of the stuff from the first movie. Like it's still really well directed. It looks great. It has great performances. The music fits it well. But I just think like they just really amped everything up. Like it's a bit meaner, a bit crazier, a bit more wild. Which, I mean, I don't know if the first one, especially compared to this, seems like a bit more grounded. So maybe if you like that aspect of this, you'll maybe won't dig this one as much. But I kind of love how wild it gets. And again, it's hard to talk about a lot of this stuff because there's a lot of plot things to go into. So, it can't really discuss much of it. But I have a blast. I think it's a hoot. And again, I was really happy that you dug the first one, and now I'm curious what you thought of this one. If it like kept your expectations from the first one, or were you a bit let down, or because again, I haven't heard a ton of people talk about these movies, so I think the general reception was that like the first one, this was generally well liked, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, that was a lot of questions you're asking me there. Okay, I guess first thing, I liked it. I'll just get that out of the way, right? I liked the movie. I will say I almost think you might have done it a slight disservice by like implying it was crazy, because I will admit that like halfway through I was like, it's not that crazy. Like, what was Tim talking about? It's not that crazy. And there's some kind of crazier stuff at the end, but it wasn't like a complete leap into insanity that I thought maybe you were teasing at. And I had to kind of rein myself in a little bit from that. But I will say I think the first one has a better pacing, right? The first one has better pacing and structure, because I think once it reveals its act, which is that we're following CW and her stalking her next victim and so on, I think that was a bit more neat in its like structure, and I think it kind of built nicely. This one's like almost 2 hours long, and it jumps around a bit more. I think there's one particular like section, like 2/3 or so in, where it does like an extended extra flashback to explain some stuff that I don't really think we needed. So there's some little nitpicky things like that I would say. And there's a couple of weird little plot holes. Like for I could just say this one, for example, like CW, for someone who's so tech savvy, having no password on her phone or her computer is really weird to me. Sure. So, just again, little nitpicky things. However, performance is still very good. I still found the character captivating to watch. I like some of the predicaments that she finds herself in throughout the course of the movie. I do think the ending's a lot of fun. In the way it kind of wraps up its story. There's a couple of like really douchey characters that I enjoyed sort of seeing reveals for and like how their story kind of ends up by the end. So there's a lot to enjoy here. I had a good time. Arguably it has wilder highs. I think the first one might be a more consistent like experience though, all in.
I think that's fair. Yeah. No, I definitely get that. I think I might have forgot to mention it in our first review, but I remember like looking at the runtime of the first one and being like, oh yeah, this is just like a nice, cool 90 minutes. And then like when I was rewatching this one, I was like, oh, I'm assuming it's about the same. Let me just double check, make sure like I have enough time to rewatch it. And then I was like, 150. Like, oh, okay. I guess we are really, going big with it.
Just to clarify, hour 50, not 150 minutes would be 2.5 hours, which would be really insane.
Right. Yeah, hour 50. Sorry. One thing you mentioned, I do like again that we are exploring like different facets of like internet culture in this. Like there's still kind of like under the realm of like that kind of influencer stuff, but like we're also kind of digging into like, oh, they have like true crime podcasts and like like you're saying douchey like
Twitch streamers,
and like all this stuff, but it all works, like it all like flows together. And then I do like one thing I like in movie is when you have like all these kind of like separate storylines and then seeing how like they're gonna merge. I think is really fun, and the way everything kind of comes together in the end, I thought was a hoot. So yeah, I think there's a lot of like cool, interesting stuff here. I do agree. Like, there's probably some stuff that you could have cut. Like, definitely, like I guess like the earlier flashback kind of stuff. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess. Well, I don't know if that'd be considered a flashback. The way the timeline kind of works, so we can get into that. But like,
do you mean
you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really have a problem with anything in the first part of the movie. It was more that when there was like flashbacks to prior to that later on in the movie, that I didn't really think we needed. I just felt like
I would agree with that. Yeah.
It was kind of like it was trying to bring some like emotion, and I'm like, look, the one thing I don't get out of these movies is emotion, because I enjoy it for the maniacal character plotting and planning and pulling off maniacal things. I don't really need to buy into like, oh, she might have maybe a fraction of a heart like in there somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Like I'm not interested. It's fine. Just leave that
out. No, I agree.
So yeah, there's that. There's also like, it's ultimately you spend a lot of time with CW. I think there is obviously a segment where you focus on someone else for a bit. And I think it's necessary in a lot of ways for the plot that it's setting up, but at the same time, I did find myself going, "Oh, come on, let's go back to CW, please." Like, can we? Like this character's just not as interesting, and it's a lot more depressing, this storyline, by comparison. So please, but.
I mean, I do agree that CW is the most compelling of the people we're following, but I did like the other storylines. I guess the other kind of main one, it's not something that I probably would have guessed I wanted, but actually did enjoy it. Again, not as much as following CW, but I did like it. And again, how everything ends up coming together, especially in the end, I think is really cool.
I liked how almost everything ended. Like everything that was set up, I liked the payoffs to just about everything, as much as I might have been questioning how much we're focusing on this or that at certain points in the middle.
Yeah, for sure.
So, that's what it is.
And then again, like we mentioned this with the last one too, but I think these movies just look really great. I'm assuming again this was probably I don't know the facts for sure, but it at least looks like it's shot on location. I think it was it in Indonesia this time? I think
we got both south of France and Bali in Indonesia. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what like fancy deal someone made to get access to some of these houses that they're getting to shoot these movies in, but it feels like here's this ridiculous mansion like in Bali or this fancy thing that almost looks like a big tree house. I'm just like, okay, all right, whatever. This is cool, I guess.
I mean, I'm guessing if like, and it's not like it's like a big movie in theaters or whatever. It's like Shudder movies, so they probably don't have a huge budget, but at the same time, it's not like they have a bunch of like huge special effects stuff they have to do or whatever. So, maybe if they're just working on like a smaller budget, but then like, most of it is just going to like the locations and stuff. Like, I mean, that's cool.
Honestly, I said at the end of the last one that they could almost be used as a travel ad for Thailand. I genuinely wonder if Bali are like, hey, we'll, you show off some of our locations, show off a nightclub or two, show off some of the hotel resorts and the swimming pools. You can film here for basically free, as long as you're showing off the country a bit.
Yeah. That's great. I do love the idea of these movies just being like long extended tourist videos.
Hey, if they put a good plot in there that I'm willing to follow, then power to them. It's working. So no, I mean, yeah, we're in very nice, like fancy touristy kind of locations, and once again we have plotting and scheming and things not going quite to plan, and so there's not much more we can say without getting into spoilers, because again, almost immediately,
sorry,
even like 60 seconds into this movie, something happens that I don't want to spoil. Like it's so quick to get to that kind of stuff that I just feel like we cannot. But I will say, if you like the first one, you'll probably like this one as well. Depending on what you liked about it, you might like it a bit less or a bit more.
I think that's a good way to put it. Like, yeah, you'll probably enjoy it, but yeah, depending what some of your bigger like takeaways or something from the first one, maybe you like it slightly more, slightly less. Sounds like maybe we're on opposite ends, where maybe I like it a bit more and you like it a bit less, but we're still both positive on it.
I mean, I like the a couple of the campier elements, don't get me wrong. It's just that, you know, pacing wise and some of these other like structural things, like I think were tighter in the first one. So
I think that's completely fair. It's you know, I guess like, you know, every movie is different, obviously, but to me this is like a great example of a sequel where it's like, yeah, we're not really like, you know, rocking the boat too much. We're kind of taking, you know, the elements, a lot of the elements that you like from the first one, and we're just kind of going bigger, you know. It's like, again, to me, it feels like, you know, a bit meaner. Maybe there's a bit more, like, you know, the first one was, had some, like, pretty good, you know, I guess, like...
I'll fight you a little bit, actually, because I do think that... Because I was thinking this halfway through the movie, that they could have very easily done the sequel thing of, like, oh, it's just, like, the same movie again. And what I mean by that is have her hunting new victims, and that's just the movie, and then it gets her into new situations from there. But that's not how this movie happens. Like, it gets to its setup through very different means, so it's actually a lot more different than I think you're maybe giving it credit for there.
I guess maybe I just mean, like, yeah, like plot wise and stuff, it's very different, but to me it's like, you know, like a lot of the elements of just like the look of the film and like the tone and like, you know, the actors and all that kind of stuff. Like,
what did you want the sequel to be in, like the Antarctic or something? So it's very like everything's cold and they're in fur coats, and it's like, oh, you're trapped in a base with CW. She's going to hunt everyone down in the base.
I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but
I wouldn't mind that either. To be fair, like, I'd watch it.
Yeah, I guess I just mean, like, you know, there's plenty of horror sequels that, I don't know, just like go completely off the rails, or like it feels like, oh, this doesn't really feel like it has maybe the same vibe, or, you know, they get like a different creative team, so it just has like, you know, a different look, or it doesn't feel like as up to snuff or whatever. And like, to me, it's like, okay, yeah, we still have like all the elements in place, but yeah, we're just, I don't know, but it's different, but in a good way that still feels like, you know, on the same page with the first one.
Yeah. So I think we just have to say spoilers then and get into it, because honestly, I don't know how we talk around anything else at this point. So, spoilers for Influencers, you have been warned, but it does come recommended, especially if you like the first one. So, in fact, only if you, I mean, don't watch this without watching the first one. It's not, it's a sequel in the true sense of the word. It follows on from the events. You have to watch the first one first. So,
absolutely, yeah. And then they're both right there on Shudder. If I mean, if you're a horror fan, you know, I think Shudder is a, you know, pretty good investment. There's lots of good stuff to watch there. If you don't have it, yeah, you sign up for like a free trial or something, watch both of these, and you can either stick around or dump it to the curb, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And to be a quality snob, if Shudder's 720p isn't good enough, you can go and rent them on Apple or somewhere else from higher quality. Sure. And knock yourself out there.
I mean, normally I would say, like, you know, who cares about that? But I mean, these are quite good looking movies. You probably do want to watch them, you know, at the most highest of deaths.
Yes, the highest of deaths. Very good. They're not even in 4K. It's just a higher bit rate for their streams. But anyway, spoilers then. For Influencers, you have been warned. We're going to get into it. So the movie actually does something at the start that I am often critical of. A lot of TV shows do it, right, for like specific episodes, and some movies do it as well, which is they show something that takes place much later in the story, right? And they just give you a little bit at the start, and then it's like, you know, it can be 24 hours earlier, a week earlier, a month earlier, however long the story spans over, we jump back. Normally that rubs me the wrong way, because it's such a cheap tactic. It's such a cheap trick to be like, oh, we know the movie's going to be boring for an hour, and we want to give you one of the shinier things up front so you're interested, but it doesn't actually add any like intrigue. If anything, it just spoils where something's going. I'll give this credit, because this was so weird in terms of like, okay, like I understand that somehow CW is involved, right? Or Catherine, if that is indeed her real name.
Right.
But like, you know, we see this woman racing home, right? And we find out later this is Bali. We don't know that at the time necessarily, but she's racing home in her car. She's speeding to get there. She comes storming in, and picks up a knife from the kitchen in her fancy mansion and just slits her own throat. And then...
And...
yeah. There you go.
Oh, sorry. And basically while she's doing this too, like she has her phone out and she's just getting like constant messages and like little beeps and whatnot on her phone. So it has something to do online.
Yeah, buzzies and whatnot, and just constant notifications. And then as she's like bleeding out, she falls down and her neck's bleeding and it's very graphic and it's a very kind of like, white floor and all that. So the blood's really popping and it's like dripping out of the pool that's there. They've got like a pool going off a balcony. It's a ridiculous rich person's house, okay? As this is happening, her phone starts to ring and you see the name on it, Catherine Weaver. And of course, I'm perking up going, that's a CW. This is what that is. That's Dare to Defy. That's the CW. So... she's crawling towards it as if like, oh, I should answer that, even though she's dying, but she dies before she can get there. She sort of croaks just before she gets to the phone, and then it's like, okay, cut to black. We're going somewhere else, and we do another story, and that's all that opening is. But what's so weird about it is that there's so many elements of like, okay, obviously CW's involved, and the name in the phone implies that, but like it's kind of weird that like. Did she somehow drive this person to do this to herself? Did she, how is she getting involved in this person's life? It was such a different thing than either stranding her somewhere or just herself killing her, that it was so weird that it was like, okay, I'm actually very intrigued as to how we get to that. Like, how do we get to this moment? So I'll give it credit. It was, and they do the smart thing and not repeating it later on. Later on, they just show you what stuff that's going on at the same time, and we sort of realize, oh, this is happening right now. So I also respect that, because usually it's just a clip from later in the movie. This was actually, no, we're going to show it from a different perspective later on. So felt well planned in that sense. So yeah, no complaints.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's like a nice little jolt to start the movie and
to your neck.
Yeah. And I think there's like so much stuff going on that I like also forgot about it for a while. Cause like we don't meet her character like, super right away. And then, so it kind of took me like a second,
It's probably like another 45 minutes before you see her. Did you recognize her when you saw her though? Were you like, oh, that's her from the start?
Probably not like that second, like I don't know when it clicked for me exactly, but I mean at some point it did, obviously, but yeah. Okay,
well, the first proper segment though is that we're with CW and she's riding a bike and she's in the south of France and she seems to be friendly with people that she's interacting with in the store here, a coffee shop there, a little bakery, whatever it is. And there's a little moment where she looks at a motorbike and sort of eyes it up like, oh, I wish I had a motorbike. And I was thinking, wait, is this... Because her demeanor felt different than the last movie. It didn't feel like she was stalking anyone. It didn't feel like she was plotting. It felt like she was content. And I'm like, oh, is this her origin story? Is that what we're getting here? And I kept thinking that for quite a while, if I'm honest. Like, it wasn't until...
Me too.
Well, we'll get to it, I guess. But like she goes home and she has a girlfriend, right? She's in a relationship with someone, and it seems to be happy. They're going on a trip together, and I'm like, is this someone she's conning or? And what really made me think that this was her origin was when obviously they get to the resort and she's mad that some influencers come in and stolen the royal suite that she booked, so they're forced to go to a crappy regular room. And then we meet the influencer, played by Georgina Campbell, of course, from Barbarian and some other stuff. It was fun seeing her here. And she's playing like a proper snotty, like up her own ass, like, oh, you can't get a good latte here. Oh, the room they've given me is just not as good as they claimed. The pool's not big enough. Like, she's doing nothing but complaining. And I'm like, wait, is this the origin of why she hates influencers? Because this influencer ruined her romantic weekend and then starts talking to her girlfriend, so now she's getting jealous too. It's like, oh, I'm going to kill this bit. Like, so I was... yeah, how'd you go, Tim?
Oh, no, so like, even the way she talks about it, like, like when she's talking to Diane, she's like, oh, like, I hate those influencers. Like, they couldn't do anything without their phones. Like, someone should just strand them like somewhere where they can't use them and stuff. And so part of me is kind of thinking like, okay, she's saying that because that's something she's already done, or is this like her way of thinking of it? And
Yeah, it felt like she was having the idea. Yeah, that's what it almost felt like.
Yeah.
So I was actually surprised that after everything goes down, and like Diane catches all of her passports, and it's like, wait, I'm reading about these people in Taiwan. What's going on here? Or Thailand, Taiwan. My brain's frazzled. And I'm like, oh shit, this is set after the first movie. Oh, wait, how did she get off the island? I would like an explanation. And then the movie just decides to cock tease you about that explanation. They do not explain it, but every so often they bring it up. Someone will say, how did she get off the island? How did she get off the island? You're just like mocking us at this point. And I kind of respect that. It's like, doesn't matter. She got off the island. She's fine. You're just happy she's back for another movie. Just go with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously my curiosity wants to know, but is there really any answer that would be like super satisfying or that would matter to the story? Not really.
Yeah, she had
I think
secret little dinghy stashed somewhere in a corner that, Madison never found. Oh.
And she's obviously like a very like skilled, alpha predator. Like I'm sure she can, figure out something to do.
I think it's interesting you used the word alpha there, Tim. You'll know why later. But.
Of course, yeah. And then I think she even brings it up to like Diane at one point. Like she asks like, oh, like what happened to your eye or something. She's like, actually, like someone like beat me and left me on an island or whatever, and I had to fend for myself. And and again, it's like, like, okay, you're not going to question that a bit more? Like, I mean, maybe she just thought she was kidding or something, but
I think that's like how it came off to me. She thought this was just her telling tall tales or whatever. But because I thought this was maybe going to be her first like thing is that it kind of almost, because she's not trying to get like the influencer alone. Like Georgina Campbell's character is kind of butting into their lives, like inviting them to dinner and wants to take them to this vineyard the next day. And obviously CW doesn't want that. She wants to be left alone with her, blah, blah, blah. And it's basically, it falls into her lap that she runs into her and finds out that they're supposed to be going with her to this vineyard. That she's like, oh no, my girlfriend's still asleep. She's a little bit sick. She's going to be staying home. How about I come and take your photos for you? I know a great spot. And she takes her to this secluded castle they happen to pass by on the way to the resort. And that's where she takes her, and it's like, you already know, she's going to kill her there, right? She's going to do it, and she ends up pushing her off the ledge, and she falls to her death. And everything up until that point, I was thinking, this is almost like her first time, like down to the fact that when she gets her phone to take photos, she intentionally lets it lock so she can be, sorry, what's your password for your phone just quickly so I can get the camera back up, and she gives it to her, and it's like. So everything about it, I was like, this is the first... And I think the movie probably wanted us to think that maybe this was the origin story, and maybe something happens to Diane that really sends her off the deep end and like sends her on this path down everything. But no, that is not the case. But this death was fun. It felt quite visceral seeing her lying there. She's still kind of alive for a little bit, and that was one of the things that really stuck out, and why I thought it was the origin as well, is that CW lets Diane take her photo. That was a big thing in the first movie. And not with her phone, admittedly, she takes with her film camera, but it was kind of a big deal. I thought, she does care about her then. This is a genuine relationship, because she's not trying to hide.
Yeah, I kind of get the... Well, I guess once, it's not like her origin, like you get the sense that... maybe she has actually found true happiness in that, hey, and she's like, all right, let me give up my old ways and stop killing influencers. But then, Jesus, one is just so goddamn annoying that it's like, all right, I got to do this one more time.
Yeah, I got to slide. Well, that sounded kind of, because obviously, okay, right, she goes back to the thing, makes an excuse. Because she has Georgina Campbell's phone, she texts her from that phone saying, I had to rush off to Spain for a deal that I made, blah, blah, blah. Right? And that explains her absence. And she does the thing where she posts stuff on her account for a couple of weeks. They get her big room and everything seems happy. But they do kind of treat it like it's a drug almost, where because she's done it again, when she's back in France, I think they're always in France, but when they're back in the city, back home, she's like out just sort of like about during the day, and she notices like a blonde woman taking selfies in front of like a touristy location, and she starts like getting that look in her eye and following her, and I'm like, she's got the itch. She wants to kill another one. Like, she really wants to kill an influencer. And then luckily for this woman, her boyfriend like shows up, before she makes contact, and it's like, oh well, shucks, I guess I'll go home. And that's when Diane's went onto her computer and found her like 5 passports of different names and everything else she's got.
Yes. It is kind of funny. Like, it's not like, I mean, both this and the last one, like, I really wouldn't consider them like comedic in any way, but like every now and again there is like a little bit that's just like, oh, it's pretty funny.
I mean, I think the ending's hilarious. I mean,
that is very funny, actually. Yeah. Well, a lot of the time the tone doesn't feel like it's going for comedic, even though like there are like these instances that are pretty funny, and I just like the idea that it's like, oh yeah, she just really hates like influencers. Like, she could probably get away with killing anybody if she just wanted to kill, but it's like, no, just specifically influencers.
That does make it a little funny, and it honestly makes it like, and in a movie, I'm not saying real influencers deserve to die, but as for a movie, it's really easy to just be on her side and be like, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, like that, first kill, like really you're rooting for her, because I mean, again, we like following her, but yeah, the Georgina Campbell's character is just like so annoying that there's like no sympathy there. You're like, all right, cool, good.
Insufferable would be the word, because even when they're driving to the castle, she's like, oh, I like this and I like that. What do you know about wine? And she's like, nothing really. He's like, oh, you should really get to know wine. It'll improve your life so much. I could teach you. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I want to kill this woman after listening to her for 10 minutes. So fun stuff.
And that is like a funny trait too. Like, a lot of the people I feel like she ends up killing, especially the more annoying ones, they always like feel like they want to use her for some ends, and like even when it's stuff like, oh yeah, like I'll teach you some, but like it's like that they're gonna get something out of it, whether it's like they'll use it to post about like, oh, like teach my friend, like can you believe my friend didn't know this, or something. Like there's there's just something that's like needy about it, even if it seems like they're offering something.
Oh, I should do a post where I'm like, oh, I'm teaching Tim about aspect ratios. Can you believe this idiot didn't know about aspect ratios?
Oh, people would love that, I'm sure.
Oh, they'll be all into it. They'll love it. Yeah, so, I mean, that's the thing. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I believe she actually cares about Dan. I believe she actually cares about her.
Oh, yeah.
And she's, she's trying to explain to her, but Diane's like, no, I'm pretty sure you killed some people. And she makes the mistake of calling her a psychopath. And I was actually a little bit surprised that was still a switch for her. Like, CW hears her being called a psychopath and immediately grabs a cable and strangles her to death. This is where the opening titles kick in, is when she's killed her. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, I believe you cared about her, but you also just completely, like, to protect yourself, as soon as you realized this was your cover was blown and this was over, you immediately killed her anyway. And it was like, okay, this is an interesting character beat for her.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And then that, I think, I don't think we get to see, like, we see a little bit more of it later, right?
That's during the flashbacks later. Yeah, it goes back to this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, like she obviously like regrets what she does like pretty instantly, but
yeah. What happens here though is we actually go to the US, where we find out that Madison, obviously alerted authorities, but she was actually arrested for the murder of the 2 people on the little boat because they never found CW and they blamed her for it.
Yeah, which I mean, completely makes sense. Like, especially considering we know from the first movie how much CW would hide her tracks and like delete her pictures and stuff. So it's like, I mean, obviously we know she's not crazy or whatever, but I'm sure she's explaining this stuff like, no, there's this woman that like, you can't find a trace of, and there's no pictures of, and blah, blah, blah.
And she ultimately got off scot-free though, because there wasn't enough evidence, because, well, she didn't do it. So it makes sense there's not enough evidence, but, she's been kind of still blamed. The internet still thinks she is this. She gets a lot of like threats and stuff like that. So she's kind of got an offline kind of lifestyle now, but she goes on a podcast. We get this introduction to her via a podcast where she's there on this podcast because these hosts apparently defended her when all the initial stories came out about her, and it's a year later, I think now. But the thing is, though, is that they're actually just sort of try to like goad her into like answers, and like they're immediately saying, hey, you allegedly did this, you allege this, and she's like, I thought you guys believed me and were on my side. And it's very clear they just want to get clicks and like do the rage headlines of like, we had a serial killer on our show, this woman killed two people, come and hear what she had to say about herself, kind of thing.
I actually think both of these movies are like really smart with how like they portray basically like internet life, I guess, because I mean obviously the internet is such like an integral part of our lives now, but I feel like not every movie really gets it. Like some people present it as just like being like very surface level, where like I'm gonna make a character like say hashtag after they speak or something, or whatever, like stuff that doesn't really feel necessarily like true to life. But I feel like a lot of the beats they hit in these movies are like, oh, like I can see these people, like this feels real to me. Like the like true crime podcast with people acting like I don't know, these people just seem kind of dumb, but the way like they're acting like they're trying to sound like very like smart and confident, and then the way they're basically like using her as a guest, and then the way she's getting like outed and doxxed and like all these threats online feels like, again, very similar to the way you see like people, especially women, like getting harassed and like death threats and all these things. And then later on, again, we'll get to like all the Jacob stuff, but like all that kind of dumb alpha male bro kind of like podcast energy,
there's like
streaming stuff, like
there's like a right wing quality to that. But even just something as simple as the Twitch like bit notification sound effects being accurate and stuff like that stuck out to me. So it does seem like, I mean, maybe this is a combination of like younger people are now, like people who have grown up with the internet for the last 10-15 years are now at an age where they're making movies, so that might be part of it. Part of it also might just be the internet's been around long enough that it's matured a little bit and is more ingrained, so people understand it a little bit better.
For sure.
So, there's lots of reasons why it might be a bit more authentic these days compared to what it used to be.
Definitely, yeah, because like like back in the day, you would have like again, and I think I kind of mentioned this with like the first review, but like when you think like, oh, it's a horror movie about an influencer, it's gonna be like very dumb, surface level, like kind of jokes where they're just constantly like doing selfies and doing blah blah, like, and it's not that. Like it feels more realistic and authentic, I guess. Although before we say that too much, I will say there is a couple things in this movie that are a bit more like out there. Like, she's got Diane's voice as an AI on a computer and shit like that. There's definitely some more wild stuff there as well. I mean, I was gonna say, like, you're saying that maybe it wasn't as crazy as I hyped it up to be, which is fair, but I still think there are some wild stuff, and like that Diane computer, I think is like pretty batshit crazy. Like, it would be one thing if she just programmed her voice, because we know like she can do that, because she manipulated like the voice of the other people that she pretends to be or whatever.
And they kind of explained that actually, because when she was driving with Regina Campbell, she revealed that she went to like university for like tech something or other, but it was basically just to explain, hey, that's why she knows all these skills. She was learning this at school.
But the thing with like the Diane like computer or whatever, like the way it talks is like, oh, this feels like a bit more than just like, you put her voice on like some like automatic commands or something. Like it feels like it is trying to kind of engage you like a little bit. Yeah,
it feels a bit too much like a movie artificial intelligence, like who can talk to you.
So I think at one point, like maybe it's when Madison discovers or whatever, and she's like, oh, you have Diane's voice or something, and it says like obviously, and I was like, I don't think a computer would just respond that way,
Yeah. So as much as it's authentic in some of the things it's portraying, it does also have some stuff that feels a bit more fantastical as well, like on top of that.
But for me though, it like completely works. Like it makes it entertaining. Like I like the mix of, some of this stuff is a bit more serious, but then also there are like some of these campy, like segments or whatnot to it.
Yeah. So Madison's life's a living hell. She's getting phone calls when she's at work. She's scared when she's walking home. All that kind of stuff. And no one believes her that CW exists. However, because she again is scared, she does something that I assume she does often is that she Googles or searches online for murdered influencers or dead influencers. And she mostly finds headlines about herself and all the stories that happened a year ago about her, but she finds a story about Georgina Campbell's character. And it makes sense that she's not found anything in the last year, because it does seem like CW hasn't killed anyone in a year. She had been kind of laying low, and this was her first kill again. And she's like, wait a minute. And the part that really caught her eye, of course, is that, her account seemed to post images for a couple of more weeks after she died. So she's like, oh crap, I'm hunting. Like, I'm looking into all this stuff, and she's looking at all the various things. And the smoking gun she does eventually find is that when she looks at Georgina Campbell's Instagram, there's a video of her standing at the pool, and she's like sort of moving around, and at one point you can vaguely see in the background, it's a little out of focus and blurry, but you can see what looks like CW. And I love this idea of continuing this thing where she always tried to avoid being on camera in the first one, but in this one there's a couple of situations where like she doesn't know she's on camera, or like at one point someone comes up and they already have a camera in her face before she's even get a chance to like do anything or say anything. And it's like almost like the deer in the headlights of like, oh shit, how do I deal with this? Like, I'm being filmed right now, I have to try and think of my way around this. And this was the first little snippet of that, of like, oh, I mean, no one else will believe that that's the killer, but for Madison this is like, oh no, I'm not crazy, she exists, and I know where she was 3 weeks ago, and this makes her go to France to start hunting the breadcrumbs.
Like my first thought was like, oh, you can like show this picture to those guys on the podcast and be like, no wait, see, like, but then I was like, oh no, you're probably gonna sound crazy, like they'll just be like, oh, that's just like a shadow, she's far away, or whatever. And then but yeah, like after the first one, I don't know if I immediately would have said like, ooh, I want to see Madison come back or whatever, but I actually quite enjoy her storyline. Like I still agree that, you know, CW is the more compelling out of everyone. Like she's the one that you do want to watch, but I do enjoy like her also being on the hunt. I thought that was fun.
It's a flip of the tables, and I do like what it leads to in terms of putting CW into a weird position, because you know that moment I was just bringing up where it's Jacob, who we get introduced to in a minute. He just goes up to her with a phone and starts to talk to her. That happens because Madison's talked to him and said she's looking for this girl, so he finds her, just happens to see her, and obviously because she's got this very, you know, unique thing, you know, her birthmark in her face, it's very easy to know that he's looking at the right person, so he confronts her, and it catches CW so off guard, like her world's been invaded, and it's like, okay, how is she going to react to this? How is she going to like get her way out of this and try and deal with this, and so on and so on. And once we get to that point, like everything starts to fire on all cylinders. But there's some setup before we get there. Part of it is Madison going around France, finding that the resort she was staying at and asking if this girl was here, and so on and so on. And that leads to her finding a tagged photo of Diane, which leads to Diane's page, which does eventually lead to a photograph that contains CW. And she's like, wait a minute, I can maybe figure out something about you from her. And she calls Diane's parents, who say, oh yeah, they went together to Bali, which makes sense because her MO, of course, is to always try and convince everyone that the person she's killed is still alive for a few weeks. So it made sense to me that Diane's parents would still think she's alive. In fact, we later on see that she's doing like a Skype call with them and pretending to be Diane with her tech. So the mum thinks she's still alive. So that all was like a neat bow. That all made sense. And that was fine. And then the flip of that is we also get introduced to these other characters, the new characters for this movie, which is Jacob.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. Yeah, just before we go there, I just wanted to mention real quick. When she goes to that resort in France, I do like her conversation with the check-in guy there or whoever.
The concierge.
Yeah, she's like, oh, can I have some, like, I was wondering if I could have some information on my friends who stayed here, like, a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh, we don't really give information about other guests. And then she's like, oh, it was, like, a woman with, like, blonde hair and one with, like, dark hair and a birthmark and stuff. And he's like, what are their names? And she's like, it's like, you don't know their names? Like, I mentioned this in the first one, but I do like that, you know, people in these movies, like, I feel like for the most part tend to act pretty intelligently, and like, so I like that this guy's like, like, what are you talking about? You're obviously like, I can't just give you information. Like, I feel like other movies that he would take out a book and be like, oh sure, like they checked in at this time or whatever. Like I like that he's like, no, like I can't tell you anything, and you don't even know who they are. You're obviously lying.
You do not know their names? No, I cannot do that. I am French. I do not help you.
Oh, it's uncanny.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And there's definitely other examples in this movie of characters seemingly, kind of in secret almost, did something smart. It just kind of still blows up in their faces, almost out of luck in a weird way for CW, but we'll get to that. But Jacob is introduced. He's a Twitch streamer who does like a Twitch stream where he's doing like a podcast effectively as well, where he's talking to other guys about how, I mean, I didn't even catch half of what he said, but it was basically a bunch of like, this is how men should act as alpha males and how we should treat women, and it was a bunch of stuff, right? And he's acting really...
I think there was like something about like, oh yeah, if you're a real like alpha dude, like you should be able to cheat on your girlfriend or wife or whatever.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah.
There's something like that.
Well, stuff.
Which I feel like is ironic because then like as soon as he gets offline, he's like so, like subservient, to his girlfriend or whatever.
It goes beyond that, Tim, but we'll get to all that. But he acts this way, and then as soon as he gets off the Twitch stream, he goes over to his girlfriend, who's the girl from the start, Ariana, and he's like, hey, I thought that went well. And she's basically coaching him and saying, oh, you're supposed to be promoting this, and you're meant to be the good guy in the conversation, so let them say the bad stuff, and then you come in looking like, it's like, oh, so you're kind of like giving him the agenda that he's trying to push. And we actually later on, she's referenced in the media at one point as an alt-right influencer.
Like conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're already like, all right, well, okay, so I hate this person. And then also, he ends his stream by using homophobic slur. So,
actually, I don't think he actually ends the stream that way. I think the stream ends and then he says that to his friends like off stream. So it's it's like he's like, he's showing his true colors. What the weird thing about this character though is I actually think there's a couple times later in this movie where he shows he's actually kind of an okay guy.
Yeah,
weirdly, despite all the shit in his hair up front.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I'm already hating him from all this, like, crap that he's spouting, but you do kind of get the sense that either, I don't know if it's, like, mostly an act that he's putting on, or, I don't know if he himself is being influenced more by maybe his, like, douchier friends or something, because, yeah, I guess he does do some stuff that is a bit more, or at least is trying to be on the right side, toward the end or whatever, but, he still like sucks.
No, he does. He's just a bit more interesting by the end because he oddly does some like good things like a couple times in the movie. So I mean, we'll get to that, but yeah. So they established this. They established that she's this influencer and that he's this streamer. He's got a friend who he always hangs out with, who's also I think a streamer, and like they're always just talking about stuff. They go to clubs together, whatever, and that's kind of them set up. And the big thing is that when they're out at the club, his long-haired friend, who I think is Cameron, I want to say his name's Cameron, he notices Madison sitting in the corner by herself, and he's like, hey, if you're really still this alpha guy, you can just go and get laid by whoever. Go prove it, Jacob. Go over and talk to her. And he's like, oh, fine, I will go talk to her.
And there's this like little thing that for whatever reason, like Cameron really seems to hate his girlfriend and like really wants her to like break up with her.
Which honestly, like the more the movie goes on, I'm like, I kind of get why he feels that way.
Sure, yeah.
Like this is the weird thing. I think both Jacob and Cameron have they're douchebags who are idiots and they're clearly like spoiled rich people and whatever. There's this odd like actual nice qualities kind of buried within them that kind of comes out throughout the movie. But Jacob goes over and talks to Madison, who makes it very clear, I'm not here to be hit on, go away. And he's like, I'm not here, I'm not going to hit on you. He doesn't actually say that he basically just came over to prove to his friend that he could, but he's like, it's fine, whatever. But she does reveal why she's here, right? Because he's not expecting the big, long, serious answer she gives him, but he's like, oh, I'm hunting a murderer who left me for dead on an island and killed 2 other people. She's got a birthmark. You seen anyone like this? And shows him the photo she's got. And he's like, nah, sorry. But almost in just an attempt to convince his friend that he got her number, which he technically does, but he says, hey, if I do see her, have I got a way to contact you? And she gives him his number. And it's basically just a visual thing so the friend sees it and he's like, yeah, I've still got it. And that's not really what's happening. But that's kind of almost the coincidental like start of like this part of the story is like they bump into each other. And then that leads to the next thing, which is that when Jacob's out with his girlfriend, and interesting little moment here actually when she's taking photos and she just takes her top off in front of the photographer. She doesn't really care that she's topless, but Jacob does seem a bit uncomfortable. Remember that for later, because that'll thematically come back up. He notices CW picking up food at the restaurant that they're at, and goes out, and when he says, hey, are you a murderer? And she looks up. She looks up at him. He's already holding his phone and he's already recording. And at this moment, I was like, you know what? I'm no longer mad we spent like 20 minutes away from CW, because this moment's really good where she did not see this coming and she's already been recorded, and how is she going to deal with this? And obviously she plays dumb. She's like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. And he's like, oh, you're not going to give me anything then, are you? And she's like, and he's like, okay, whatever. And he, leaves her be and goes away.
It's so funny if like you actually believed someone was like a murderer, like would you? I mean, I guess maybe they're more focused on like, oh, this could potentially be something that could get clicks or whatever. But
that's the thing though. He's not looked up yet, so all he's had is what Madison said. So I don't think he believes it yet. I think he's just. I don't think he looks it up because after this scene he goes home and he looks it up and he shows his friend on the stream. He's like, hey, look at this news article that happened last year. I think that I ran into her and I ran to her and blah blah. And that sort of, so I don't think he's looked into it yet. I think seeing the other girl, seeing the one with the birthmark, is what's made him go, oh, I need to look into this because clearly something's cooking here. And he goes and does so.
Yeah, and then it's not really a big thing. Like, it doesn't bother me, but maybe I could see some people having a nitpick here. But, like, it does seem a little, like, maybe too coincidental that, like, he just happens to run into first Madison and then, like, CW, like, like, fairly quickly. Like, but it's not really a problem. Like, it sets the stage for, like, all this fun stuff that's about to happen. So, it doesn't really bother me, but it is like quite the coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that Madison put work into thinking about where she might go. And she never ran into her at the club. She did run into someone else that'll bump it. Like, I think this idea that she got to the right area of the city is like showing that she was putting effort into like, oh, this is the place CW likes. She likes to have access to this and this. She'll be somewhere in this area. Now, does that completely sell it for everyone? Probably not, but I think that's what the movie's going for, is that she's put the effort in here of tracking her down as best as she can.
Yeah, and then, like you said, it's really fun. Again, CW is just a very, compelling character. You like to follow her, and it's fun to see her, like, thrown off her game, and then... Because it's like, okay, now the fun part is going to see how she's going to, like, correct this and use it to her advantage or whatever. And then, like, the stuff she ends up doing to, manipulate Jacob and everything is, like, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously here she's like, okay, why is someone asking about me? Who's here? What's going on? And she immediately, this is when we see her fancy treehouse looking place and her computer with Diane AI on it. It's just funny her talking to a Diane, because it was making me think of Twin Peaks. How Cooper's always like, Diane, note this down, like in his tape recorder. But, she does a lot of research. She does a couple things that are kind of wild, actually, but she... tries to figure out like how she was found, and it's like, oh, I was in this club, I might have been seen on the camera there, I might have been tagged in something, blah blah. And she also realizes that it's Madison, and there's even this moment where she goes to like look for her and sees her on like the pier at like a touristy spot, and they sort of make eye contact, and that's all it is in the moment. It just kind of backs away, and it's like, oh shit, she's here, she's looking for me, this is a big deal, I'm going to have to deal with this. But like you said, the more interesting stuff in a lot of ways is all the stuff with Jacob and how she's going to try and like finagle that, because the Diane, again, the AI is like, oh, is it time to leave? Is it time to run? And she's like, no, I can think of my way out of this. Give me a minute. Let me think about because she looks him up. Obviously, she finds his face and it's like, oh, he's a streamer. He's a public figure, like an influencer, just in a slightly different format. And it's like, okay, how do I use this? What do I do? Blah blah blah. And obviously, her plan ends up being to try and kind of seduce him, but also play the card, like go back to him, find him somewhere, and be like, hey, like you ran into me the other day, and I got really scared when you said what you said, but this girl Madison tried to kill me. Look it up. There's all these news reports about her like getting away with it, but she did murder 2 people. She left me on an island. She's crazy. She's a killer. And I'm like, oh, she's basically going to pretend to be Madison again, but just with her own name. Like this idea that I know everything she's saying about me, I'm saying about her. Yeah. And like try and like kind of convince them the other way around. Now, I don't know what the end goal was going to be when she started doing all this, but it made sense up front that this was going to be the start of the tactic, going into it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then I like the way she runs into him is like, first she like creates this like fake online dating profile to like catfish his friend so that, I guess she knows like where they are or whatever, so she can like accidentally.
She pretends to be Madison on a dating app and then like matches her with the friend Cameron. And then that gets them talking about it again. And then she runs into them all at this, club or whatever it is. And, she gets invited by Cameron back to like their house party. It's just a small handful of them. But this is where a lot of the actual striking's going to come in, and this is where it gets kind of interesting because she tries to seduce him and does her whole sexy thing, and I don't care, you've got a girlfriend, and he's like, no, well, I do, I've never cheated and I'm not going to. And I'm like, okay, that was oddly a good guy move. Interesting. Okay. But he agrees that, hey, you can still spend the night here at Cameron's place, we just can't go back to mine. And he sleeps on the couch, she sleeps in the bed. But of course, she gets up early and sneaks out and goes in the middle of the night and basically has like done some stuff with his phone, so she has access to his house and gets in and goes to his computer. And this might legitimately one of the biggest like surprise little twists I've seen in a movie in some time. Because she goes to his computer, and I was thinking, this is so funny that the ending ends up happening, because I actually thought as soon as she sat down, like you see the webcam on top of the monitor, and I thought, oh, like that at any point could turn on. You should probably point that at the ceiling or cover her up or something. But more on that later. But she goes rummaging through the computer, finds a folder of video files, and I'm like, okay, so clearly there's going to be some kinky private stuff or whatever, right? Which it was, but the video starts and it's him on his own looking at the mirror, right, using his phone to film, and then he walks out and his girlfriend Ariana is having sex with someone else, and she looks at him and says, oh, you like that, you little bitch, you're pathetic. And I'm like, wait, the twist is that he's a cuck? That's what we're doing here? Okay. All right.
Bravo. No notes.
But my favorite part of it, though, is that CW, like, after we hear a couple of lines to get the gist of what it is, and she's like, what the F? Like, she is like, okay, I can use this. This is something. But there's no world in which she could have expected to find this, though.
This is a person who like kidnaps people and strands them on islands to die. Even she is kind of like, whoa, hey.
What is this now? So yeah, very, very strange. But an interesting, and Ariana even like comes up the stairs and is like, who the hell are you? Why are you in my house? And she's like, oh, I'm Jacob's friend. And she basically just tries to talk her way out of it and like leaves. And that's pretty much it. But
it's kind of funny. It's kind of similar to like, it kind of reminded me of the first movie when like, like Ryan comes into the house or whatever. He's like, who are you? Like, she's always just like in other people's houses. But
she's done a thing to clone his desktop PC so that she can control it remotely from hers. So she goes home and she does some tinkering. She gets the video files and she uploads them, right? She leaks them. And this actually kind of very quickly gets us to what was happened in the opening, which is the Ariana in the morning when she goes to get her coffee starts like all her notifications start blowing up, and she sees that it's been posted, and she freaks out, and she tries to call her boyfriend, Jacob, but Jacob's phone's been intentionally nuked by CW, so he's not answering. And I like that when she does get to phone someone, it's his friend Cameron. Cameron picks up his phone, and she's like, have you seen Jacob? Where's Jacob? And he, because we've already established that he doesn't like her and he thinks that it's a toxic relationship for his friend, he very quickly says, hey, he's up in the bedroom with someone else and he wants nothing to do with you and blah, 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 F off, you're the worst. You know, he says all this stuff. And it's the sort of thing where this would normally be so contrived, but because from her perspective, it looks like Jacob's just released all these sex tapes, it actually carries a lot more weight that maybe he does feel like this and he does want rid of her. And it's kind of like the Cameron inadvertently, without knowing he was doing this, kind of drove her to go and do what she does with a knife.
Yeah.
Right? Because that, like, and it's actually kind of an interesting dynamic here, right? Because as much as we're, you know, it's kind of funny that he's a cuck and it's a weird, like, twist to get. Like, seemingly, he might really be into this. He might actually, this might be something he is consensual about and he wants. And at the very least, I think the idea that she takes the action she does, not just because it's online and it's public and people are seeing it and her parents are messenger, because I think one of the messages you see her dad pops up. I think the idea that she's actually upset that Jacob's done this and Jacob doesn't want her around anymore, that she actually cares about him, regardless of what they do for their kinky lifestyle, does make it feel a bit more like, oh, as awful as you kind of are, there's actually something real here that you're maybe upset about and why you're making this choice to kill yourself.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't think about it too hard, but like, I don't know. I could see maybe the movie trying to say something about, your real life versus like your online persona or whatever. Because very clearly,
And she's at the worst end of that, right? Because she's this alt-right influencer who's promoting a bunch of really awful stuff. So,
yeah, and I want to say, I feel like maybe they might have showed like something or some like message or headline or something that had something to do with her maybe being religious or saying something about like God or whatever. So clearly, and if you're conservative, I'm assuming that she probably, part of her popularity is reaching like a more conservative religious demographic or something. So if they see her just having like wild kinky sex, that's probably like a huge a thing that's gonna like crash that and make people turn against her or whatever.
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, you could argue that this is ruining her image more so than she cares about Jacob, like seemingly like turning on her. But you could read it, I guess, either way. You don't get a lot of her reaction enough to really decide if it's maybe more one or the other. But it could just be a combination of both, for sure. So,
sure, yeah. And I'm sure there's like a lot of stuff that's coming into play. But I mean, really, the like chef's kiss kind of moment though is how like kind of all these like kind of three different characters or storylines just like start to converge at this point for the beginning of what is just a glorious like I don't know if I'd say like final act, but whatever the last 15-ish minutes or so of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, CW sneaks back up to the bedroom where she left, the idea being that it'll look like she was there the whole time. Although one of the girls does see her sneak in, but that's the idea. And she wakes up Jacob and says, hey, we're going to go do this and that. Because he promised that he would help deal with, what's her face? Madison. Like, Madison. I'll help you confront her tomorrow and we'll put all this to bed and all that. His phone doesn't work. So he's like, hey, can I use your phone to call my girlfriend? I haven't, something's happened to mine, blah, blah. And that's why her name was showing up and the phone ringing when his girlfriend was dying at the start, which I assume, because she wouldn't have her contacts in her contacts, so I'm assuming that this is some kind of like caller ID thing she has, or at least that's the idea anyway. I'm sure you can maybe nitpick this and say that it wouldn't look exactly like this, but whatever. It's a good payoff to why it was her number that was calling at the start of the movie. and it's like, okay, so that set that up, and everything coalesces when they go back to Jacob's place, right? Although, interestingly, his friend Cameron does see the leaked video and tries to talk to him about it as he's leaving, but Jacob doesn't give him a chance. In fact, Jacob reveals to Cameron that, hey, that girl up there with the birthmark, she might be a murderer. I'm luring her into a trap because I've already talked to this other girl, Madison. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting that he was like they were playing her, right? She's actually kind of fallen into their trap. It just so happens, though, that the thing that she released has already caused his girlfriend to do something tragic, which is going to completely throw all their plans like out the window. So when they get back to Jacob's place and they walk in, and obviously we were expecting to see Ariana lying there, pool of blood. What we didn't expect to see is Madison standing next to her, and it looks really bad for Madison. And she's like, no, the door was open when I got here. You told me to come early. She was already dead. So all of a sudden we get this thing where CW is like, oh my God, Madison, I told you she was a killer. And she's like, no, it's her. And they start pointing fingers at each other. And it's actually like extra funny to me that CW didn't actually technically do this. Like, obviously it's domino effect, but it's not like she knew she was going to do this. She couldn't have predicted this was going to end with her doing this. So, you know, there's just like a hint of comedy to this, right? And honestly, the rest of the ending for me is kind of darkly funny, especially when Madison like goes over to grab a knife because she knows that like CW is here, I have to have a weapon, and accidentally stabs Jacob when he kind of walks into her, and it just makes it look worse for her. And it's like, and then we get this insane fight breaking out as he's crawling over to his dead girlfriend and sort of like crying about her, as the two women are just chasing each other, throwing each other off tables and throwing things at one another. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, and then it is darkly comedic, but I love like anytime they cut to Jacob and he's just like bleeding out, hysterical, just going like, what is going on? He is like so confused. Yeah, because like again, I like that he wasn't like instantly like, oh, I believe CW, let's attack Madison together. Instead, he is just more like befuddled by everything. He's like, what is happening? I don't understand any of this.
Well, this is what I was getting to when we were talking about how some characters are making kind of smart decisions. Now, obviously, he was doing it for his own goals because he thought it would, you know, oh, his podcast, his Twitch stream is going to blow up because he's going to have caught a killer. So he was doing it for bad reasons. Like, his motivations were impure. But the fact that he was kind of like working with Madison to lure CW into a trap and not falling for her seduction, like him recognizing she's trying to seduce me, was actually a smart thing. It just so happens that she'd already weaved such a web of chaos that this was, you know, going to just blow up like this. And yeah, like during the fight, like the whole like Madison throws like a pool ball at CW, which she catches, and it's like haha, and then another one just comes in and hits her in the head. Like, how can you not say that's not comedy? That's funny.
Oh no, it's this stuff is just so over the top, and I feel like very different from, you know, like the last movie, because like we mentioned with the last one, it's like, oh yeah, there's not that many like scenes of like violence or whatever, but when they are, it is pretty like, you know, in your face and intense and stuff. And this one, it's like, oh yeah, they're doing like this crazy over the top like violence, but it is kind of played a bit more for laughs, it feels like. And I mean, it's still like intense and stuff, but it is also like really funny how they're just using like every little like thing they can get their hands on, and the characters are just getting like just the absolute shit like kicked out of them.
Yeah, honestly, if I have a critique, is at one point CW punches Madison in the face like 8 times in a row so hard that I was like, oh, she's definitely dead now. And then Madison keeps fighting back. I'm like, okay, all right, we're actually using some cartoon logic here as well, all right. But ultimately, Madison does win. And she's leaving the house, and she actually sort of stops and goes, wait a minute, no, I'm going to tie her up first. And she comes back and like tapes up her hands and legs, which I still felt like she should have probably taped her to something potentially. But regardless, Madison picks up her phone, finds out where she's living with it, which again, my little critique of like, would CW not have a lock on her phone? That feels really bizarre to me. And then she goes to her house, and the whole thing is that she gets there, she realizes the whole Diane computer is a thing, which you alluded to earlier, and she basically realizes, oh, your computer is like set up to like control Jacob's computer, and Jacob's computer, and this is something the movie's established repeatedly. His computer desk is sitting over to the side, and from there you can see kind of this whole pool area up to the kitchen in the background. And at that point, because we see her watching the feed, and she's watching like Jacob start to move a little bit, we cut into the scene and we follow the Jacob and CW part here, where Jacob kind of crawls over to her bleeding out, going, "I'm sorry, I believed her, I'm sorry, like, you're going to be okay." And this is what I was talking about the other, like, so the one good thing he does is that he doesn't cheat on his girlfriend, and the second good thing he does is that he actually, thinking CW is innocent, is trying to help her here whilst he's bleeding out.
Yeah.
And he does so, he crawls over, he gets the tape off, and she's like sort of a little bit out of it, but she gets up, and she just basically gets up as he's sobbing and talking about stuff, and he kind of checks his girlfriend's phone and sees all the messages that she's tried to leave him, and realizes that one of them says, "Who's that brunette that had the black bikini that was in our house in the middle of the night?" And he realizes that's CW. So as he's starting to say these accusations out loud, you just see her in the background walking over to the kitchen and like picking up clearly some kind of cleaver or something, and just coming up behind him and just stabbing him. I think it's a butcher knife actually this time, and she stabs him in the chest with a butcher knife. And then as she's standing there watching him die in the pool, she looks over and sees the computer and the webcam, and hears the Twitch like bit like cheering notifications, and she walks over, turns it on, sees that it's live streaming, like Madison's turned this on with her own setup at her place, and she's looking, and even this was really funny though, right? So there's two things I love about this. One, the funny part, which is like you hear like the robotic voice saying some of the tips, where some of them are saying, "Does she have an OnlyFans? I think I'm in love. I bet she's a killer in the sheets." They're just being like,
"Step on me, mommy."
Yeah, just douchebags about the whole thing. That was funny, realistic but funny. And secondly, it's just her staring at the camera and being like, I love that. While I was rooting a bit more for CW, I must admit, I do love that Madison's victory is that, no, you're not a ghost anymore. People know you exist and they know you're a killer. Like, I have done that. At the very least, I have proven you're real to the world, because this is broadcast to everyone. And I love what comes next as well, but even before we get to her reaction, I love just in that moment of her staring, realizing like how this is a victory for Madison.
Yeah, that's great. And then, CW's reaction, it is like kind of chilling, the way she's looking at the camera like, I don't know, like a predator at a zoo would like look at you when it realizes like, oh, there's people on the other side of that glass, like just slowly approaching it, and you can tell like that, like something new is changing.
It's such a good payoff, because the entire first movie, not even just this one, but the first movie from the start was, oh, she doesn't like to be on camera. So this idea that she was secretly filmed at her most monstrous is just a perfect kind of like way to end this one. But I also love her reaction, where she almost like takes a moment, she's staring at it, and then she just kind of smiles and is like, this is kind of freeing. I don't have to hide anymore. And she picks up the meat cleaver that's lying around as Cameron and the three ladies he was with the previous night come over. And I even like, I love his little bit as he's walking in, where he's like, "Hey, my bro will be okay. Like, if I explain to him this is an opportunity. Sex tapes don't always ruin careers. Sometimes they help careers. With the right like messaging, we can turn this into a huge opportunity." And then he walks in, sees the dead bodies, the girls are behind him, and he's like, "What the hell?" And then CW just walks up to him and without a beat just stabs him in the neck with the cleaver, and he's like freaking out. There's bleeding everywhere. She starts laughing maniacally, and the credits start to play, like the closing titles start to come up, but we go to an aerial shot as she sort of chases the other girls out. You see her get to one of them and stab them with the cleaver, and then she keeps chasing the others, and the camera just keeps pulling up so you don't see the rest of it. But it's like, she's just done a spree. I thought she was going to run because the cops will be showing up soon. No, she's like, oh no, well, they know I'm a killer now. They know I'm a monster. I don't have to hide anymore. I'll just be the monster.
I mean, everything about this rules so hard. Like, it could have ended with her like just looking into the camera or whatever, and like that would have been totally fine. But this like last little bit is so fun, so funny. Like Cameron's such a douchebag, and then I love her. Again, like you can just see that like the other times when she snaps, it always has felt like maybe either it's been like a bit more plotted or something that like she's doing out of desperation because like someone's found her out or whatever. And like here, like you were saying, she just like is like, oh, I'm free. I don't even need to come up with an excuse or try to lie my way out of this. It's like I'm just gonna be 100% like who I am, and these people are such like I don't know that they're like when they're actually faced with anything like real or challenging or whatever, like they can't do anything about it. So yeah, like he's just standing there and screaming as she's like chopping him up, and then man, this last shot is like it's beautiful, but it's like this is a great overhead shot of like just her chasing them down as like the credits are playing, and there's like again more of like the kind of I don't know like dancey kind of techno-y or whatever music is playing, but it totally fits the scene, and it's really a fantastic ending.
Yeah, no, I love the ending. The last the last 10 minutes are great, but the last 60 seconds I thought was the perfect cherry on the whole thing. So no complaints about how it wrapped up, because like I said, like I think it was an interesting balance of like I'm still kind of rooting more for CW because I kind of want a third one. I want to see her like continue. Yeah. So you actually give Madison a realistic win because she's proven that she's real, right? And like basically exposed her. But it's actually equally so satisfying for CW to be like, well, I guess I'm just the real life Michael Myers then, and I'm going to have fun with it. And she just goes bananas and just goes for it. And like, yeah, like the characters she's killing are mostly these rich, douchey characters. Like, Jacob had like a vlog at one point he did on his phone. There was like a really quick moment. I didn't even mention it, but he talks about how, hey, if you just like, if you want to make money, you have to don't be a wage cuck. I think that was the phrase he used. Right. Don't be a wage cuck. And I'm like, oh God, you're the worst. Which is why it's kind of interesting. He's got a couple of like moments later where he's kind of a good person for a second, but it's like also his girlfriend's like this right wing influencer who's like seemingly really awful. I don't know. There's some layers to that. I guess there's more layers than you would think there would be.
Sure.
But ultimately, they're still douchebags though, so you still get to enjoy just the kills.
Absolutely.
Regardless.
Yeah.
So, fun time.
Yeah, I mean, I had a blast watching both of these. Like, it had been, quite a while since I'd seen the first one, but yeah, I want to say this one came out like, was it maybe around October-ish?
Was it? Oh.
I want to say like, or maybe a little bit before then, but it wasn't like.
According to Wikipedia, it was December.
Oh, was it? Oh, maybe it was. So like it wasn't a super long time since I had seen this, but I still found it incredibly enjoyable. So yeah, these are both like really fun movies. Yeah, I really don't have I do agree like that. Yeah, this one isn't perfect, but man, I do find it like really entertaining. I do wonder, yeah, if there would be plans for a third one. Like I have no idea where you would go from here, but I would definitely be intrigued by if they wanted to do it.
I mean, it reviewed very well, so and people seem to like it. So if they can keep the budget at a reasonable level, and I mean, I'm just scanning the Wikipedia page here. Apparently, they filmed it over 4 months, and they did shoot in Bali, they shot in Canada, and they shot in France.
Okay.
So, I imagine the bits in the US were the Canadian locations.
Sure.
If I was to guess, I don't think they could pass for France or Bali for the most part.
Right.
But yeah, they let a crew of 15 people. So I mean, that's maybe one of the ways to keep the budget down is they just keep it a really tight crew. But
I mean, again, it's really impressive because like I think these movies are just really fantastic looking. Like it, again, like. Whenever I mean, there's so many movies you watch and it's just like, man, this just looks like shit. So it's like, there's things like this that can prove like, no, you can still make a movie look good,
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be down for a third one, and it would be a shake up again because it's like, like now she's kind of like, people might recognize her as a famous killer now. How does she deal with that? Like, there's fun to be had. Like, does she come after Madison for like, well, I'm going to kill you now because you completely messed up my whole thing that I had going. So I'm coming for you.
I think if they do a third one, though, they really should call it Influencer Cubed.
Just to continue in the Alien.
Yeah.
And so CW should die at the end of that one, but be resurrected for the fourth
Absolutely.
one, which is Influencer Resurrection. Which does not roll off the tongue at all. Then you got, I don't know what the equivalent of Prometheus would be for Influencer, but I don't know.
Diane.
Then you have
that's what you get, like, instead of like you get like a full Diane robot. That's like their David.
Oh yeah, sure. You get Influencer Covenant, and then of course Influencer Romulus. And I don't know how you do Influencer versus what other franchise would be Predator in this case. I don't know, but
Ma, I don't know.
Not Ma, come on. Maybe she goes after a podcast from the new Ghostbusters movies. Maybe that's her target.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Influencer versus podcast. That's great.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, she's not an influencer, so she's more like a influencer buster, if you want to look at it that way.
True. Yeah.
She ain't afraid of no influencer.
That's right.
When there's someone strange taking selfies in your neighborhood and making demands of the local hotels, who are you going to call? CW.
I mean, and it was funny. I remember in the first review, you did mention like CW, like making a joke like the network, and they did mention that in the podcast too.
they make a joke in the podcast. They say, "Is that even a real name? What, the network?" And part of me was like, was that a natural joke, or did you only put that joke in because people made that joke when the movie came out? I'm curious. Like, was that something you already thought of, or was it like, no, enough people made stupid jokes about the network that you slid that in? But regardless, fun time, and well, we'll see how we rate it. Tim, what are you rating Influencers out of 10?
So I do agree with something you said earlier, where like on a technical level, this is probably a bit more uneven than the first one. However,
actually,
I do.
Before you get to your rating, we never even mentioned when it came in, but there is a bit like, and this is the thing I was complaining about earlier, and we just didn't feel the need to talk about it. But just to clarify, like, getting into the third act, there was an extended flashback sequence which showed her reaction after she killed Diane, but then went further back, or no, actually it went back first and then went to that. But it showed you how she met Diane. We got like a prolonged sequence of like how she ran into her, how they started dating. They had a montage, a couple of little cute conversations, and I would have cut all of it because at that point I didn't care about trying to make it more real that she cared about Diane. We're so far past that at that point in the movie. I did not care. It's my biggest critique, honestly, of the movies, that flashback section. I would just get rid of it. Sorry, Tim. You I just wanted to bring it up.
Oh no, yeah, it's completely fair, and I agree with that. Like, I don't know if I would say like I hated it, but yeah, it is completely unnecessary. But yeah, with that being said, again, this one's probably a bit more uneven, but again, I think you mentioned this earlier. Like, it does have some high highs that surpass the first film for me. Like there is again, I like, following all these different characters, and then just the ending to me is just so like goddamn good. Like it's it really just has me like hooting and hollering. So yeah, I think the last one ended up giving it like a 7.5, I believe. So this one, because of some of those like big moments that I really liked, I'm gonna go like a smidge higher than the last one and give it an 8.0. So yeah, I think it's super fun. I really like this one a lot. Both of them are great. But yeah.
Yeah, you're not beating the robot allegation saying 8.0. Yeah, I get the last one a 7.5. And I said this is a bit less consistent structure-wise. I cut out the flashback. But at the same time, it does have some high highs. And honestly, I think I probably balance out to the same score. I think ultimately the pros and cons balance out to the same score. So I'm going 7.5 again. And that's where I'm landing. But I had a good time. Like, you know, I still enjoyed watching the character. I enjoyed the wacky ending. I was having some laughs at that. And it seems to have worked for you on a second viewing, both of them, which is nice. Yep. So I suspect that I'll have a good time down the line with them again. So also, I want to point out as well that when Cameron watches the video, right, the sex tape, and he doesn't get a chance to like actually say to Jacob what it's about, but this whole idea that he the whole movie's been saying, oh, that girl's toxic for you, I don't like how she's treating you. I love that this sex tape of him being cucked is like the most extreme version of what he was saying that he couldn't have imagined. Like, because he's staring at it like he's in shock. He's like, oh no, my bro. My bro has been treated like this. I have to do something about it. I don't know. There's something really funny about how loyal he is to his friend, to me.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That just gives me a chuckle. But there you go. That's influencers.
Yeah. And then I think maybe a little tease, but, you know, will this crack the top 10 of 2025? Like, that's something we'll be discussing soon.
We'll find out next week, because that's next week's episode. We're not reviewing a movie. We will be discussing our top 10 and then deciding what that top 10 is. In the past, I'll say this again at the start of the actual top 10, but I'll say it here as well. In the past, what we've done is we've done a video making the top 10, and that's just been for patrons, and then we've presented that as kind of like a finished top 10. We're not doing that this time. And the reason for that is because while it's kind of good for YouTube to have a presented finished top 10, ultimately we are a podcast, and the discussion of why things are going in the places as we're arguing it with each other is actually better content, honestly. So that will just be the top 10, is us making the top 10, and we'll have it by the end of the episode. I still want to give something to the patrons though. So what we're going to do this time is that something we always do with the top 10 is we'll do a worst 5. The worst 5 will be the Patreon / YouTube member exclusive. So that's how it's going to split up this time. But you'll get to hear the discussion of why we're picking what we're picking for the top 10. So that is next week on Screams After Midnight. So look forward to that. And it was a pretty strong year, a lot of titles to consider, so there should be some nice hearty discussion for that. I can't wait for Strangers Chapter 2 and Shelby Oaks to hit the top spots. But yeah, that is us though, everyone. Thank you for joining us. You can, of course, support Screams After Midnight and all the other Male Fuzz Movies podcasts over at patreon.com/MaleFuzzTV. Get bonus episodes that we've been doing. We're at like 65 of those now, I think. Those are most months we'll have a new one. We also do Even More Streams, which is most weeks we'll have an Even More Stream segment where we'll do a little top 10, we'll talk about something in the horror movie news, or we'll do a little discussion topic of some kind, just whatever random little horror thing we want to do, and that comes out most weeks. But otherwise, that is us. Thanks to everyone who already does support us. It is greatly appreciated, makes everything possible, and we will see you guys next time. So keep watching scary movies. Goodbye.